Hello, this is Brett from HireBook. This is a quick overview of what OKRs are and what they can do for your organization. Now, it's important to note that OKRs are kind of a management system, and so everyone that looks at them is going to see them in a slightly different way. So a CEO might see OKRs as a way to get us all aligned against our strategy, and sales might see it as a better way to link marketing and sales together. HR might see it as a tool to get rid of those painful annual performance reviews and replace them with less formal, more frequent performance conversations, etc. So as I tell you this story, each of you is going to hear this on what it does for your organization. So the concept of OKRs, and you've probably seen slides like this a million times in your career. Somehow or the other, we need to be able to take an organization's mission and vision and break that down to what do we need to do this year in order to achieve that mission vision. Once we know what we need to do this year, we can break it down to what do I need to do this quarter. Now, each quarter, we should have some key results, things that I would see more of or less of as I move towards that objective. And that's going to inform us of our day-to-day activities. In other words, I'm taking this long-term view of the organization and backcasting it to what I need to do this year to achieve that. And then what I need to do this quarter in order to know what I need to do this week or this day. So we're taking that longer-term view and decomposing it down. And the term OKR is merely focusing on this quarterly objective and key result, OKR. And the main message here is that the cadence of business is much faster than it used to be. So we need to refresh our strategy not once a year, but once a quarter and get this ongoing feedback of how we're performing. So that's all an OKR is. It's that view of strategy. And as we cascade it down from the year to the quarter, we also take a look at it in terms of what your department or your team or even you individually need to do so that we have that great linkage between your activities that ladder up to the success of the organization. Now, the benefits of the organization are mainly around literally being agile for management. What it allows us to do is very quickly come up with a new strategic direction and cascade it down the organization and across the organization in a matter of days. But the important part is the bottom up. We need feedback back from you on whether your department, team, or individually have the capacity and capability to achieve those objectives during the planning process, and then day to day as we're using it, how we're doing on progress towards those objectives. Because of course we need to course correct. If for some reason you're not making the progress we need, we have to figure out how to resource you correctly so that you can achieve those objectives. Now, the OKR itself is pretty straightforward. It's literally just a verb, noun, key result, target, and date. So let's talk about, say, a call center that's helping people with software, like an accounting package. So if you phone up the call center, the issue is you've had some sort of bug and you're no longer productive. You can't get your work done. So our objective is to increase customer productivity, right? That's the outcome of the work we do. And the key result is going to be call to closure cycle time. How long does it take us to resolve the problem? Our target is to solve it in 4.5 minutes in quarter one. And that's it, an OKR, objective and key result. Now, we want a little bit more precision. And so we're going to ask you to forecast what might happen in quarter two. In this case, a little bit of process improvement. We shave off 0.5 minute. But a miracle is going to happen in quarter three. We're going to cut it in half and then a little bit more improvement in quarter four. So with the OKR, we want a little bit more precision. In fact, what we also want to do is capture the cross-functional nature of work. So in this case, to solve the problem of longer talk time, what we discovered is a lot of time was spent transferring the customer to an operator that knew that product. So we're going to collaborate with HR, and HR is going to train all of our operators across the year. So in the first quarter, we'll all be trained and certified in 2 products. By Q2, we'll be trained and certified in 4, then 6, then 10. So we're capturing what other departments do to help us become successful. Then we're going to tap into IT, and they're going to program the phone switch so that when you call up, I identify your phone call, it can route you to an operator that's certified in the products that you own. And it's the combination of this launch in Q3 and this critical mass of training that makes this miracle occur. So OKRs also capture the cross-functional nature of work. The final thing I want to illustrate on this slide is the concept between a key result that has run the business and a key result that's changed the business. So run the business, those are things you do day in, day out, sales, payables, payroll. And those tend to get measured with SMART measures, simple, measurable, attainable, and so on. Change the business are the projects you're working on to leave behind better processes. And in this case, what we do is we outline the milestone we hope to achieve by the end of the quarter. So there's a bunch of steps in Q1, but it's going to end up with completing the design. Bunch of steps in Q2, but the final milestone is developing the software tool. Bunch of steps in Q3, the final one being launching. So change the business tends to be milestone based. Run the business tend to be SMART measures. That's it. You now understand what OKRs are. And the concept is we start off with the top of the organization and cascade those down. So what do we need to do at a corporate level? Therefore, what the department needs to do. Therefore, what the teams need to do, and so on. So it looks a bit like this. So imagine that we do level 1, the top of the organization. Each department contributes to what's in level 1. Now, part of what they do is what I call above the radar. It's visible by the leadership team. But there's the bulk of the work the department does is below the radar. The leadership team doesn't need to know this stuff. You need to do it in order to achieve this little purple square stuff here, but your managers don't need to know about this. And it repeats. Inside the department, we have teams. And guess what? There's stuff the team does that needs to be seen by the department, but there's also stuff the team does that's below the radar, and so forth. So the idea is eventually this cascades down the organization, and we're being very mindful to make sure that leaders see what they need to see and don't need to get bogged down with the detail, but you need to be able to see that detail and make sure it gets done. So that's the journey we're on. Now, this might take 1 month, it might take a year, it might take several years. There's no rush. We're going to build this out where we need to, when we need to. But inevitably, the organization will get covered. So that's a framework that OKRs provide, and it's essential in organizations. Our research indicates that employees don't understand the organization's strategy and direction, over 86%. Over 87% don't feel that they're engaged with their jobs because of that. And therefore, about 60% of employees are not satisfied with their organization's system for managing their performance. And all this culminates in over 80% of strategies failing. Now, when we took a look at this, we find that there's this huge degradation in the organization. So if we take a look at, for example, the senior team, and we ask the question, how many of us can tell us what our corporate strategic priorities are? Across almost 4,000 organizations, only 51% of leadership teams on average could tell us what the strategic priorities are. So only half the leadership team. But when we go down to the senior executives, it's almost half of that. Only 22% can tell us the strategy. Middle management, 18%. By the time we get to front line, it's only 13%. So that degradation is huge, right? We come up with these great strategies, but it doesn't cascade down the organization. And that's what we're hoping to do with OKRs. We get that clear cascade so that all of us understand exactly how the work we do contributes to success. And the benefits are phenomenal, right? What we see is this, that we want to make obviously fast, great decisions. And to do that, we need, great results. What every team needs is clarity on the results that you're trying to achieve. Data that gives you, up-to-date information on the results and the risks that you're dealing with. We need the ability to follow through quickly on performance issues. And lastly, your activities need to be focused on those results. And that's what OKRs deliver. In fact, on average, our organizations see a 19% improvement in performance because of these 4 key factors. So that's where OKRs come to help us drive better performance.